breaking news, the biggest vaccine campaign in NHS history. It's kicked off this morning. We had the first woman in the world to get the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine, 90-year-old grandmother Margaret Keenan. There she is with her thumbs up. And in the last hour, the second patient and the first man in the world to get vaccinated, William Shakespeare.
That's actually his name, is William Shakespeare from Warwickshire. I mean, he's got to be related, hasn't he?
And what do you say to those who might be having second thoughts about having this?
Well, I say go for it. Go for it because it's free and it's the best thing that's ever happened at the moment. So please go for it. That's all I say, you know.
I mean, just simple words there, reacting it. You're quite emotional by that.
Well, it's just, it's been such a tough year for so many people, and there's William Shakespeare putting it so simply for everybody. It makes you proud to be British.
The vaccination centre is just opened behind us. I know they're hoping to do over 500 patients today. I'm sure they'll be ramping that up in coming days.
Very, very exciting just to talk to Lynn about the vaccine that she's just taken. She's 81, and really very moving to hear her say that she's doing it for Britain, and that's exactly right, because she's protecting herself, but she's also helping to protect the entire country. And across the whole of the UK this morning, that is happening in Scotland, Northern Ireland, and Wales, in England. People are having the vaccine for the first time, and it will gradually make a huge difference.
We are starting to turn the page on a difficult year. Today is delivery day, and tomorrow vaccination against COVID-19 is beginning across the European Union. The vaccine is made available at the same time to all EU countries. And people will start taking the vaccine in Athens, in Rome, in Helsinki, in Sofia, you just name it.
European nations put Brussels in charge, but whatever the cost advantages of central coordination, it slowed things down, aggravated by production delays, first at Pfizer, then AstraZeneca.
Here in this vaccine centre in Cologne, as in other parts of the European Union, there's only a handful of people.
Well, here in France, the number of patients admitted to hospital intensive care units with COVID-19 has now reached the same levels that we last saw here in November. Do you think France would be in a better position when it comes to the vaccine rollout if you'd done what Britain did and not take part in the EU effort?
I don't think that was an option, and considering the way the government has handled the situation, I'm not sure they would have done better than what the EU has done.
Context for this escalating row is a vaccine rollout in the European Union that has hit significant problems and is beginning to cause some real political fallout.
The Commission are in a very gung-ho state of mind.
Now the companies must deliver. They must honour their obligations.
We want our contract to be fully fulfilled.
And so the fact the vaccine rollout is in so much trouble is causing acute political embarrassment to the Commission.
Today, we have reached a significant milestone in the United Kingdom's national vaccination programme, administering a total of 15 million jabs into the arms of some of the most vulnerable people in the country. If it had listened to the Right Honourable Gentleman, Mr. Speaker, we would still be at the starting blocks because he wanted to stay in the European Medicines Agency, Mr. Speaker, and said so 4 times from that dispatch box.
This is then compounded by the fact that you have a German election this autumn and the CDU are falling in the polls. There is a real chance that we might have Germany's first ever Green Chancellor. Emmanuel Macron is obviously up for re-election next year in France, and Mario Draghi is trying to stabilise his new Italian government. And it is quite telling that Draghi, the former ECB chairman, not someone who you would expect to be taking this position, is in the most hardline camp on this. He is someone who is pushing for, not sending any vaccines at all to the UK.
Pardon d'être un peu cash, mais la gestion européenne des vaccins n'est-elle pas la meilleure publicité pour le Brexit?
They say here in Brussels all the time that the answer to any crisis is always more Europe. What's embarrassing for the European Commission right now is that there's an increasing number of countries who think that the answer to getting the vaccines quickly is actually less Europe or no Europe at all.
I think Kate Bingham, the NHS, under the leadership of the government, have done a good job on the vaccine rollout. And the EU has handled the vaccine rollout, both the procurement issue and also the rollout itself, very badly.
It's actually a huge proof that Brexit was absolutely right.
The biggest member states of the European Union have now joined the list of nations questioning the performance of the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine.
The European Union will take any action required to protect its citizens and rights.
Now, that last line is strong there. Basically, what they're saying is if we can't get enough vaccines that are manufactured outside of the EU, like the AstraZeneca one, then we're going to have to hold and control the export of vaccines made inside the bloc, like the Pfizer one. So this could impact the Pfizer vaccine supply into the UK.
We are starting to turn the page on a difficult year. Today is delivery day, and tomorrow vaccination against COVID-19 is beginning across the European Union. Our European vaccination days are a touching moment of unity and a European success story. Very soon we will have more vaccines once they are proven to be safe and effective. And the European Union has secured enough doses of vaccines for our whole population of 450 million people. But we also secured vaccines for our neighbors like Iceland or Norway.
On December 27th, Europeans literally rolled up their sleeves and kick-started the biggest vaccination campaign in the continent's history. They called it V-Day and was hailed as an unprecedented example of cooperation and solidarity from Europe's 27 nations. Instead of buying them individually, member states allowed the European Union to approve, buy and distribute COVID-19 vaccines for them.
Our European vaccination days are a touching moment of unity and a European success story.
But that success is turning into failure. The vaccination campaign got off to a slow start. Strict drugs approval standards by the European Medicines Agency and the need for it to consult with all 27 European nations before they are rolled out meant that the Pfizer vaccines were approved weeks after the US and the UK.
As coronavirus rampaged around the world, Britain could see what was coming, but was still unprepared. A year on, the failures in hospitals and care homes are familiar. But even in that deadly spring, the UK was placing its bets in a great vaccine gamble that today is paying off.
The vaccine effort has galvanised science, business, regulators and the NHS behind the single goal of saving lives. But its success began with a small group of experts thinking not like public health officials, but like investors, deciding which of more than 100 candidate vaccines to back with hundreds of millions of pounds of public money.
They placed their bets on 7, committing to buy hundreds of millions of doses before they knew if they worked. Remarkably, 6 do. 5 have completed clinical trials, 3 are licensed for use, and 2 have already been administered to 15 million people. Steve Bates was part of the team.
Are you surprised at how many of those bets have come in?
I'm amazed. I genuinely thought that there was a decent chance that we'd be talking at this stage about why we'd spent lots and lots of money on things that didn't stand an earthly of making any difference whatsoever. We were betting on this before we knew whether the clinical outcomes were strong. In some senses, that's a nonsensical approach.
The team moved fast, striking early deals for the homegrown Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine and with Pfizer-BioNTech, the first jab to prove its effectiveness, and the UK, the first country to administer it.
Where the EU went wrong, you're right, the EU kind of did several things wrong, and it's a case study in what not to do. Number one, not enough supply secured in advance in terms of kind of spreading the probabilities of success across multiple manufacturers. We've done that with 12 and counting in the United States, compared to the EU's single-digit beds.
Well, here in France, the number of patients admitted to hospital intensive care units with COVID-19 has now reached the same levels that we last saw here in November.
The speed of the rollout here so far has not been matched in the EU, and the Prime Minister warned today that with cases rising across the continent, that poses a real threat to Britain.
On the continent right now, you can see, sadly, there is a third wave underway.
In France, lockdown restrictions have been tightened already. Germany and Belgium are poised to join them. Against a backdrop of anger about the slow progress of the vaccine programme, EU leaders will discuss on Thursday whether to block some vaccine exports to the UK.
The EU says it has secured at least 2.3 billion doses of vaccines from 6 companies. It's tried to step up the campaign, but a combination of the late start in vaccinations, delays and cuts in the delivery of doses by pharmaceutical companies, and a slow vaccination rollout on the ground by individual European nations mean that Europe is significantly lagging behind the US and the UK.
They say here in Brussels all the time, but the answer to any crisis is always more Europe. What's embarrassing for the European Commission right now is that there's an increasing number of countries who think that the answer to getting the vaccines quickly is actually less Europe or no Europe at all.
Now some European countries have lost patience and are already jumping ship. Recently, Hungary and Slovakia ordered vaccines produced in China and Russia, even if they haven't been approved yet by Europe.
Ezren kaptuk meg ezt a kínai oltást. Bízzanak a magyar szakemberekben.
Mimoriadne správne nakúpiť aj ruskú vakcínu, spoľahlivú vakcínu a umožniť ľuďom, ktorí sa na Slovensku ňou očkovať chcú, aby sa ňou očkovať mohli.
Austria and Denmark announced they are in talks with Israel to build second-generation vaccine production facilities in their own countries and cut loose from Europe. Yet another blow to Europe's vaccination strategy and its attempt to catch up with the US and the UK.
What we have is a building up, a sort of a snowballing of a sense of countries splitting away from this slower, more cumbersome joint procurement scheme in order to get their own supplies. And that is not a good look, especially not when such huge players, such huge importance, political importance, has been assigned to doing everything together.
I think this will ultimately be a test of the EU and its institutions and how it fares in a kind of post-Brexit world. And it comes out looking really bad.